Hey everyone, it is Irene Lyon here. Welcome to this channel, to this video, and to this entire world of healing trauma, nervous system health, and all things neuroplasticity. Today I want to share a question that I was asked on a podcast recently. And the reason why this one was so interesting is that I hadn't been asked it, I have not had this question asked to me in a very long time. It used to always be asked, and for whatever reason, that just hasn't happened. And then just not too long ago, maybe a month or two ago, someone said towards the end of the podcast, and it was a wonderful podcast, Irene, can you explain or give us an example of what a session with you would look like? Now, bear in mind, and I reminded this person, I'm no longer in private practice. I was for a long time, but now I am mainly doing online work, education, resources, my courses, etc., mentoring. And it was so interesting because the way I answered this year, in the year 2022, was so different than how I would have tried to have answered this question even 3 years ago. And so here was my reflection after kind of trying to give that answer, but then realizing and saying it really depends on the person. And so I will say I tried to give some scenarios of if it was someone with a car accident, someone with early trauma, someone with just chronic anxiety, someone who has a digestive upset. I kind of gave all these different situations, and I'm not going to go into them right now. But what I thought about at the end, and why I've realized why it is so difficult for me to answer that, is because it would be like saying to someone or asking someone, that someone being a surgeon, tell me what surgery is like. Imagine asking a surgeon, a doctor that, who is a surgeon. The weird thing with this question is that it depends on the type of surgeon. Is this an eye surgeon, an ophthalmologist? Are they an internal surgeon? Are they a plastic surgeon, fixing people's faces after accidents? Are they a neurosurgeon, going into the brain? Are they an orthopedic surgeon? Etc., etc. I'm sure I'm leaving out many different types of surgery. Apologies to all the surgeons out there. So you see, surgery is a very broad practice, and you have specialty. And when it comes to this somatic world, this nervous system healing world, it is similar to that. Now, yes, we're not going into people's bodies and rearranging things or fixing things, but we are, in a sense, doing that at the nervous system level, at the somatic level. And we are, in some cases, working with the body structures, depending on how a person is trained. I'm trained to work physically with the human structure, movement, manipulation, range of motion, touch. This is through my career in fitness, in the Feldenkrais method, somatic experiencing, and somatic practice. All those involve some form of touch and being in connection with the human system. But if someone comes to my office, or when someone would have come to my office in the past and had, say, frozen shoulder, and I actually wrote a case study about this ages ago called The Story of Grace, a success story. I'll post it near this video. If someone came in with a frozen shoulder, how I would work with that person is so dependent on their history, their experience working with a practitioner. Are they in pain? Is there scar tissue? Is it more emotionally based, survival stress based, which often is the case with frozen shoulder, for example? There's so many factors. And so even if I was to see someone and knew all their history, like 10 pages of history, I might read it, I might not. And then when I see that person, it's the moment that that person walks through the door, the moment I see how they carry their bodies. Are they in a collapsed nervous system state, somatic type of state? Are they very hypervigilant and braced, right? Are they always joking and deflecting and not able to sense their system? Can they not sense their system? Or are they overly sensitive and sensing everything and listening and right? So it depends on the person. Obviously, it depends on where they are physically, emotionally, mentally, and do they have knowledge about this work? The one thing I have really discovered, and my colleagues, I know they'll back me up on this, is that when a person has the understanding theoretically of how the nervous system physiology works, which is what I'm all about. I've done another video on this called Why Non-Dumbed Down Education is Essential. Please check that out. It's really important for us as human beings with this higher level brain in this complex society that we're living in right now, civilization, whatever you want to call it, to really understand deeply how our nervous system physiology works, how our somatic experiences work, how our organ systems work, not to the point where you might, have the capacity to do something like surgery, nothing like that, right? We have to remember surgeons are trained for sometimes decades before they actually are proficient and masterful. But we have to know as a client, as a student, as a participant in this healing work that is somatic practice, somatic experiencing, nervous system health science, the art of all of this, they're all kind of blended together, and I'll speak about that in a second, to be able to really understand what's going on somatically, neurobiologically, it really helps. So again, I mentioned all of this because a person might come into the office or into a class or what have you, and if they don't understand the basics of survival stress, fight, flight, freeze, how things get trapped, all these elements that we as humans living in this current world have gotten so good at hiding and repressing and micromanaging and compartmentalizing, if they don't understand this, when they are with, say, me or one of my colleagues, they may start feeling something inside and they might be like, I'm not going to mention this because I don't think this has anything to do with what we're doing right now, because today we're working on my shoulder. But right now I'm feeling sweaty, or I'm feeling my heart beating, or all of a sudden I had this memory of being in an operating room when I was 5, but that has nothing to do with my shoulder, but it might. And so I say this all in service of saying there is no one way to do, let's say, a private session with a client who comes in to my office. And I think there's a misrepresentation, a misunderstanding that this somatic healing work has a set list. It's about trying to shake it out. It's about trying to get the emotions out. It's about this. It's about this. It might be about shaking something out. It might be about getting some emotions out, tears, anger, disgust. It might be that, but it might not be. It might be about making meaning with what we're sensing internally. It might mean working through an event in the imagination and imagining it happening because we're paralyzed and we can't move our arms and our legs and complete the self-protective responses, which would be a shaking reaction. So you see, I threw that in there because someone might think, oh, well, healing trauma at this level means getting the legs moving, getting the movement going in a certain way. And it all depends on the person, the history, their level of understanding, their capacity. So just like this surgeon example, if we think about that, when a surgeon goes into their operating arena, you're not going to have a neurosurgeon doing orthopedic surgery, right? But let's just say that neurosurgeon goes in to do whatever it is that they may need to do. I'm not an expert, but they go in there and they will have, I can guarantee you, a protocol, what they've learned, their training, their skill. But then they also have to be able to shift at the drop of a pin. If something happens, if there's a bleed, if the blood pressure drops, and then of course they have a team, they're not just in there by themselves, right? And so how we work at this autonomic nervous system level as a somatic practitioner like myself, there isn't one way, there isn't, this is how it might look. I could sit here for 5 hours and give you all the different scenarios and ways that I've seen clients move through things, and it's not useful though. And the reason I say that, it's not to hold that back from anyone, it's just to say, as a general rule, this work is more complex, more intricate, and more nuanced than what I think a lot of folks understand. And so I'll leave this video here. I am going to do another video in the future, in the coming weeks, the coming months, where I am talking about my desire to create a professional school, a teacher training. I don't even know what it's going to be called, but something where an individual who is wanting to do this work as a profession, as a career, enters into learning about this in a way like they were going to medical school, like they were going into the profession of medicine to become a surgeon. Not a weekend workshop, not a 3-month certificate training, not a small training that is just over a year or two, but serious learning, training, education, practicum, testing, all of it. My expertise in this work wasn't from going to one school. There is no such thing yet in our world to do that. And so I see this missing piece. I think it's very important. And so while this video is a little different than some of my other videos where I go into one topic and talk a bit about it in relationship to healing in the nervous system, I wanted to make this video just to sort of have more of a thought process that I offer you, you, the follower, my students, people that are here new, who are like, what exactly does this person do? I don't quite get it. Is it this? Is it this? I'm here to say there isn't one answer. And so if you're looking for that one answer and you're not finding it and you're frustrated, that's okay. It's not there. And so hopefully this lands a little bit into your cells to understand, I get it. It's not like a cause and effect thing. It's not a simple system. It really is an art form. It really is a science. It really is learning how to teach a human, i.e. my client, how to be in their biology, in their physiology, in their movements. And then of course, to do that with a person, I, as the practitioner, have to be as skilled and as masterful in my body as possible. This is where it might be a little different with, say, the comparison to a surgeon, because a surgeon can be really good at working with the brain or working with the bones, but they may never have had a brain problem or a bone problem. That's just the profession they've chosen to go into. So it's a little different in that way. So I hope this has made some sense, a little different. And so for all of you who are questioning and wondering, what does a session look like? Know that they're very different with each person. And you as the person, if you work with a practitioner, your sessions might look completely different based on where you're at, what's happening, where your energy level is, what things are bubbling up that day. And a good practitioner will go with where your physiology is at, and they will help you get to that next level to grow capacity to work with whatever it is that is needing to be expressed. I also did a video a little while ago on how to find a good somatic practitioner. Be sure to check that one out as well. I'll post that near this video. That's everything for today. Take very good care, and we will see you next time.